Hi, everyone. I know people are still connecting to audio and everything, but as you're getting situated, feel free to let us know in the chat where you're joining us from today. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes as everyone gets settled, but give us a heads up, let us know where you're from and what's your weather. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and we just got third winter. It snowed yesterday. Um, as always, right before it was nice and springy for a week, but hopefully this weekend will clear up and this will all melt. Whoa, Guatemala City. Eternal spring. A little jealous. Alberta, we're probably pretty close to the same weather. Honolulu, very rainy lately. I think that's probably good for all the plants, right? There's a lot of really great plant life out there. Hi, Angela. Yeah, no, I bet you guys are getting constant sunshine out in Florida. For anyone who's just joining us, hello and welcome. Let us know in the chat where you are and talking a little bit about our weather. We got a couple of Hawaii folks. If it's sunny where you are, feel free to rub it in. It's snowy here in the Midwest. Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm a New Jersey native. Nice to see people from the mother state. I'll give it just a few more minutes while people come on in. Chicago, same friend, same. Fort Kent, Maine, sunny and 11 degrees. Oh, New Jersey, which exit? Oh, that's good. Get that a lot. Decorah, Illinois, or Iowa. I've been to Decorah. Very pretty there.
Oh, someone's from London. It's not often I come on a webinar and see fellow Londonites. Oh.
Oh, there's an awesome variety of folks. Yeah, Colorado, you all just got like 1.5 feet of snow. Unity, Maine, sunny and cold. For those just joining us again, let us know where you are and how's your weather. Always curious. When you are adding anything in the chat, feel free to send to panelists and attendees so we can all see what's going on. You Florida people and your beautiful weather. I'm not jealous. I'm a little jealous. 20 inches of snow in Denver. Oh, I was complaining because we got like 2 inches. I'm sorry. Vancouver, too early to tell. I get that. I think we've got a couple people from the UK I've seen so far, so good Canada representation. Germany. Oh, wow. Los Angeles early. It really is. Everyone outside of, I guess, the East Coast and Midwest, thank you for waking up so early to spend some time with us today. Geneva, Switzerland. Wow. Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh. Awesome. Got a lot of variety. This is really cool to see. Salt Lake City, welcome. Yeah, I don't envy the humidity, southern states. I can't deal with humidity. My hair will suddenly become just a giant little curly ball. Minnesota, welcome. Let us know, for those just joining us, where you're from. Oh, North Carolina, welcome. And how things are going weather-wise for y'all today. We've got, the struggle is real. I agree, Ginger, I agree. I hope you all have a strong cup of coffee or tea or whatever beverage keeps you going today. Let's see here. South Carolina, Czech Republic. All right. Wow. It's really great to see you all this morning. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Jessica, and I'm part of our customer success team here at SCED. I'll be moderating chat today and reviewing questions to make sure that we get those answered to the best of our abilities based on our time. We want to make sure that we do keep this in about an hour, so we are respecting everyone's time frames. So I'm really looking forward to a great discussion on hybrid events today, and I'm going to pass things off to my pal Rachel to get us started today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're definitely really excited to be talking about hybrid events. I did want to go over just a few kind of housekeeping items. We are using Zoom today, and we'll be using the chat polls and Q&A features. You can see what we've been using so far for chat to talk about where we're from and the weather and all that good stuff. There is the drop-down menu. If you didn't notice, you can select all panelists and attendees to make sure everyone can kind of see your responses there. And then we will be using the polls feature, and we're actually going to test that out right now so that everyone can get familiar with how that works. Jessica is going to put a poll up on the screen, and we would love to know if you have attended any hybrid events yet. So that's going to be, you have either attended one virtually, or you've attended the live aspect of it, or you've done both, or you haven't attended at all. So you should see that on your screen now. And if you can go ahead and vote, we would love to see if people have been attending hybrid events. Awesome. We'll give that just kind of a few more seconds. Are we getting responses coming in there, Jess?
Yeah, so we've got quite a few people who haven't had a chance to attend a hybrid event. So far, about 62%. Some people have tuned into a hybrid event virtually, about 27% at this point. 4% have attended a live event, and about 9% have attended both virtually and in person. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, but that's a really, really fascinating response.
Yeah, I definitely was expecting a little bit more that people have participated. So that's really good to know. Yeah, that it is. Most people have not been participating yet in hybrid events. So that's really exciting. We can talk about that more. Awesome. So we'll be doing a few more of those polls throughout. So now everyone kind of knows how that goes. And then lastly, we will be using the Q&A function to take your questions. And what's really cool about that is you can upvote other people's questions. So if someone has the same question as you, and that's something that you really want to see answered, the best thing to do will be to upvote it, because we will probably go with the questions that have the most upvotes. So if you already know something you want to ask, you can start to plug that in the Q&A, or as the discussion gets going, I'm sure some stuff will come up for you. So definitely be using the Q&A function for those questions that you want us to answer. Awesome. And then I am so excited to be introducing Ashanti, who is joining us here today. She is coming all the way from the UK, tuning in from the UK today. And she is the founder and CEO of EventMind, which is a market leader in virtual meetings in the event sector. And what EventMind does is they provide training and consultancy and delivering for businesses looking to do virtual events, and they really specialize in creating diverse digital communities and events. And they have access to over 300 event technologies. And Ashanti is also a judge on a number of awards panels, including the EventX Awards, Independent Publisher Awards, and the Virtual Event Institute Awards. So she really knows a good event when she sees one. And so, yeah, we're really just excited to have you here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I always love talking about online events. So this is fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Before we kind of get into some really specific questions about hybrid events for you, I did want to just take a second to kind of set everything for everyone and define hybrid events. I think, you know, it's pretty new, so not everyone is fully aware of what that means. And what that really is going to be is that events that have an in-person experience, a virtual aspect of it as well, that gives people the opportunity to tune in virtually if they would like. And then what that just means is that that is a hybrid event. So there's in-person aspect to it, a virtual aspect, and then we get those kind of awesome hybrid events, which really makes it possible for attendees that, you know, can't come to the in-person aspect for various different reasons, health, safety, travel, just all that kind of different stuff. So it's a really awesome option to grow a community and be able to, you know, exercise our expertise in doing in-person events that we've been doing for years, and then what we've been learning through hybrid events over this last year. Yeah, so that kind of just gets us all on the same page there. So then I did want to find out from everyone, we know 60% of people have not even attended a hybrid event yet, but Jess, if you could queue up our second poll question there, would love to see if you all have been organizing hybrid events yet.
All right, the poll.
This will kind of be a great way to kind of lead our discussion too.
Responses are flying in.
Yeah, so are you in the midst of planning one right now? Are you considering whether you even want to do it?
Got a few more responses trickling in, so we'll leave this up for a few more seconds.
Awesome, thank you, Jess.
You bet. All right. I will go ahead and share the results with you now. It looks like about 60%, or sorry, 12% have already organized one. 28% are in the midst of planning one right now, and then 60% have never organized one, but are trying to find out if they should.
Awesome, cool, great, thank you. Thanks everyone for letting us know where you are in that stage of hybrid events. Yeah, so let's really kind of dive in here, Ashanti. I think my first question for you that everyone would love to know about, and through your expertise, how do you go about choosing the right technology? Where do you get started? You know, what are the important questions to ask? And yeah, do you sort of have a framework for where you kick off from?
Absolutely, that's a brilliant question. So I think the really important thing to remember when it comes to buying event technology is that it's very similar to recruiting or hiring a new team member, essentially. The technology in and itself doesn't know your company. You are the expert on your company. Okay, that means that there is a appropriate selection process, but also then there's the onboarding and integration and adoption stages that you have to really be aware of. And it's understanding those elements that helps you to make the right selection in the first place. Now, what do I mean by that specifically? Well, first of all, it's really important to understand whether or not this is a one-time or one-off online event, or indeed, and I'm just going to put my laptop charger in, which is hilarious. So, is this a one-time online event? Excuse all the noise. You can just see what it's like working at home with me. So is this a one-time, one-off event, a long-term strategy, or a first-time event? Because depending on whether or not your online event falls into any of those categories, that kind of gives you a guide for searching and selecting the right technology in the first place. If, for example, you've got a long-term online event strategy, maybe you're looking for an annual license. And along with that annual license, you might be looking for a certain level of customer support, a certain level of PCI compliance, a certain level of data privacy, a certain level access and control to your dashboard. You might therefore be looking to also use that platform or technology as a content management system for the duration of that long-term online event strategy. Now, those nuances and variables should guide the search and selection process for event technology. Whereas if you're doing a one-off event, and maybe it's you're trialing the event, or it's for a particular client, then usually you can choose other types of technology because you don't have to be concerned about an annual license, you don't have to be concerned about all of these other elements. And if it's a first-time event, online event for your company, you might be in the trial and error experimentation stage. Maybe you've got the risk appetite to try a technology, take the learnings from that in terms of your attendees, the community, and then if you're looking at your kind of long-term strategy, okay, what technology would fit? Could it be this one? If it is this one, do we just adapt how we're using it? Or do we need to choose an entirely different technology? So the first step is always looking at whether this is one time, first time, or long term. And that's one of the key things to be aware of as a company when you're looking. The second thing is to look at companies who are transparent around pricing and the type and nature of customer support that they provide. Because buying a piece of event technology is not the same as buying, for example, the event management or marketing support that you might be expecting or need from that technology. Not all companies offer that. The event tech landscape at the moment is a very interesting one. You have your pre-COVID event technologies that may have concentrated on event registration and have pivoted into virtual. You have what we call those, mid-COVID emerging companies that have come into the market as well. And then you have now directories and marketplaces that have risen up to help you narrow down your selection. The truth is, it's quite challenging how to work out who to trust. Some companies have been around for a week, a month. Other companies have been around for some years and have some experience in in-person events as well. So it's quite tough to navigate the sector. And what we've seen is that a lot of companies in the early days of COVID, certainly, they just did a Google, and the first three that popped up are the ones that they emailed or called, and then they bought. But now a year on, that technology might not be the right one for them. So your decision really needs to be about what your strategy is. What are your hierarchy of needs as well? What are the absolute musts, non-negotiables that you need in terms of functions and features and accessibility? Do not veer from those needs, because you have to remember that quite often when you're searching and selecting, you end up in a sales demo with the company. So there's a slight misalignment at times as to the purpose and the needs of you as a company in that call, because you might still be in an exploratory phase. So it's really important that you know what your hierarchy of needs are. You understand where you're at in the flow, one time, first time, or long term. You also have a budget in mind that you are going to stick to as well, because the pricing of platforms right now varies greatly. And then in the sales demo, if at all, if you're in one at all, is you stick to your hierarchy of needs. And key questions that you want to be asking technology companies right now is, what does customer support look like? So is that an email chat box? Is that an FAQ page on a website? Or is that a dedicated account manager who picks up the phone? You need to understand what customer support means. How much access and control do we get to our dashboard, to the back end of the technology? Where is data stored? Where can it be accessed? How is data being used as well? So it's those things you want to be asking. If, for example, there's a particular function or feature that you need for your event, and the company says to you, well, we're thinking that's a future iteration, you need to be really clear what is meant by that. Because if your buying decision turns on certain specific functions and features, and they're not bringing that in for 6 months or a year, but your event is in a month, that doesn't work for you. So it's really important to ask key questions in those sales demo conversations with event technology companies. That's just a whistle-stop tour. I know I've said a lot there in terms of how you choose the right technology.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I love that, looking at it from that angle of, are you a one-time event? You know, is this ongoing? Is it long-term kind of strategy? I think, you know, admittedly, as an event technology platform, we maybe don't look at it from that angle enough a little bit. So that's a huge one. Thank you for that. Great. So yeah, the next thing, I did kind of want to just bring it back to us, so we don't have to stare at a shared screen this whole time. And I did want to ask you, you know, I think this is a big question for everyone who's kind of looking into whether they want to be doing hybrid events right now, and even you know, keeping that virtual aspect going as, you know, vaccines are rolling out. And I know everyone's really kind of looking at bringing back in-person events, you know, hopefully this year, and definitely into next year. But like, what are the main benefits of hybrid events and keeping those virtual aspects? What do you see those benefits being?
I think there's two things. From the obvious point of view, there's the flexibility. So for example, you can offer the same audience, community, network, or group the option to meet in person or engage with some of your virtual experiences. Here's the thing about hybrid, okay? It is very similar to, for me, it's about creating this 360-degree immersive experience for your attendees and your community, right? You're offering them a buffet. Some people go to a buffet and they enjoy the sausage rolls and the pastries. Other people will go to the same buffet table and they will pick up, if they're really healthy, there might be the cheese sticks or, you know, celery, you know, and carrots and the dips. What you're doing with hybrid events is giving your attendees and community choice. And it's the same table sometimes, but they're able to pick and choose what they want to enjoy from your table. And that's what hybrid gives you the opportunity to do. So for example, if you or your client is a global company with multi-location offices, you can have certain elements of your events that everybody all over the world tunes into virtually together, whether they're at home or in their geographical hubs. But then you may have certain elements of that event, like an executive roundtable, that only maybe the board attend. That happens virtually, or you may choose to do that in person because of the nature of the event, and you fly out those stakeholders to meet in a particular location. But that can make up a series of a festival or a more holistic experience with you. And I think one of the things that's so important for event organizers and planners to realize at the moment is that the money is in community. And so we really have to move from building audiences or just having delegate lists that we email, that we message about buying tickets to events. We need to move to turning them into communities, because communities are self-sufficient. They generate their own content and they are the best ambassadors and influencers for your event. And so if you can build community, hybrid events will work exceptionally well, because different parts of the community will engage in different elements of what you're offering between virtual and in person. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that flexibility is really just, you know, people over the last year with virtual events saw their communities grow so much because they were able to engage people from every aspect. So yeah, that's absolutely true. I wanted to kind of find out from everyone watching here, Jess, if you could kind of queue up our next poll. I wanted to see what you all think are the benefits of you know, virtual events and hybrid events, and you know, what sort of what some benefits are. Yeah, so we have listed there: inclusivity, accessibility, sustainability, convenience, and flexibility, what we were talking about. And then I do have other. So I would love if anyone selects other there. I would love if you could throw into the chat what are some of those other big benefits for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, otter.ai, Jessica, is a really good service for transcription. and you can simultaneously transcribe and get audio at the same time. And you can also, depending on the subscription you have with Otter.ai, you can also send the live transcript to your team members. So they can actually live tweet straight from the transcript, for example. They can also take pointers off your transcript while the event is happening in real time. That's what we do in my team to keep our socials really fresh throughout an event. We literally grab snippets of what speakers are saying while the transcript is happening. So Otter.ai is what I would say to use, because not only do you get the audio, you get the transcript as well, which is really brilliant.
Awesome. Thank you for that suggestion. You said auto.ai?
O-T-T-E-R.ai.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Awesome.
It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we'll include that. We'll include some resources in the email with the recording of this, everyone. So we'll definitely include that kind of everything that we mentioned here with that kind of stuff. Yeah. Awesome. So did we get the poll results there?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and share the results with you. We have also got a lot of great stuff in the chat, but inclusivity, we've got at 13% there. Accessibility, which we were just talking a little bit more about, at 32%. Sustainability, 2%. Convenience and flexibility was our winner at 47%. And then for other, we have some comments. So in the chat, Evo shared, I found that most virtual event clients are not as focused on accessibility as they might want to be. This is very true. I think that there is still a lot that we're losing in the translation there. And hopefully that's, like we were just talking about, auto.ai, we can better address that ourselves as well. Other all of the above, we've got 2 of those. Other, Megan says, would be my attendees may not be allowed to travel and are allowed to attend virtually. So that's a huge benefit. We have a lot of visa issues for speakers. We've seen that definitely, especially this past year. Another benefit is allowing non-local presenters to attend and present. Having someone from another state or country being able to conveniently join online and present is great.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not more for sustainability and carbon footprint. Evo, your comment there about an event that you did, back in 2010, and you found how much it really saved on carbon costs there. So that is a huge one, I think, but maybe it was sort of like accessibility that we would love to be all a little bit more focused on that, but it is just a hard, sometimes a hard thing to focus on. Yeah. So awesome. Thank you. Yeah, really interesting and good to know. So I did want to, we're definitely going to take a few questions here from the audience, but before we do that, I do have one more question for you, Ashanti. But so if everyone can get their questions into the Q&A and definitely upvote there if you can. But before that, I wanted to find out from you, what are some of your kind of most favorite ways to engage attendees virtually?
Absolutely. So I really enjoy and recommend engaging attendees before the event even starts. Okay, so there's a great company actually that is trying to encourage more event organizers to do just this, and there's a number of ways you can do it. One of the ways is incentivize, obviously, attendees to signify to their connections, their network, that they're even attending your event by sending them a gift of some kind, whether that's a virtual gift or in-person gift, before the event even starts. And then do the great thing. So like the other day, I signed up for a meal prep company, and when they sent me my first box, when you open the box, it says, welcome, blah, 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 post a pitch, show us your best meal, basically. So it's obviously nudging me to publicly declare, obviously, that I'm a customer and that I'm happy with their product or service. And I think in the event space, I've seen great companies do this. They incentivize their attendees before the event by sending them a gift or an activity that would require them to engage with their brand on social media. And sometimes they even link that action to an activity or something that's going to be happening during the event. And that means there's more chances of that person attending because they've already started to engage with you. And of course, you are automatically more memorable because you are the one company that gave them something before the event even started. So that's one of the interesting things that we are trialing as well, is incentivizing pre-event, not just after the event. And the other thing we've found is we really leverage our speakers. So first of all, we design really bespoke and targeted content. So for example, one of our brands is a women and sex community, very niche and targeted. It's all about sexual wellness for women. And so what we did was leverage all the content creators, the experts, the speakers. They all had their individual tiles, and we promoted the specific learning points from their talks to segmented audiences. So if we were talking about non-binary individuals, if we were talking about disabled women, we specifically targeted those communities with content that would be appealing and relevant for them. That is how we were able to engage them pre-event, but throughout the event, because they turned up obviously to the segments that interested them specifically. I feel it's so important to get really targeted now. You cannot just send out blast emails to everybody. You really have to speak to that particular identity, audience, or group, and upfront tell them what are the benefits. Why should they spend their time engaging with you? What will they get from that? What will they get from it? Why is that half an hour time well spent? What are they getting from it? And so those are the combination of things that we use together, as well as providing these additional, I know I always say 360 immersive touch points. So it's the email marketing, it's the social media presence and engagement. It is the picking up the phone. This is something that is long forgotten. If you're running business to business events, right now, hardly anybody's picking up the phone. In the early days of COVID, we were picking up the phone because for the first time in years, a director would actually answer his phone. And people were putting their mobile numbers on LinkedIn and saying, happy to help or talk to anyone who needs anything in these times. And there was their mobile number. Now, usually those stakeholders are not contactable. There's a gatekeeper. And suddenly you were able to talk to them directly. So we found if it's a business to business event, a very niche sector, we create a delegate list of ideal delegates and we find their number and we pick up the phone and have a chat. What problems are you experiencing? What are your biggest challenges? What would make you come to the event? We've actually done that. So yes, we have created content, but we've asked, what would you like to know? What do you need to know? And then we've created content and we've delivered that. And all of those things combined mean that you engage people out the gate and they do turn up to your event, especially if it's a paid one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. It's I think what we saw a lot with virtually and with people trying out kind of free virtually, you do get a lot of drop off. And I think even for paid virtually, people get distracted, they're at their houses. So that's so helpful. Those little kind of beforehand reminders and really like getting people excited to be there can just be a really big part of it. Yeah.
And also sometimes trialing different things. So you might have a live only session, which creates FOMO, which means if you don't turn up live, you miss that content. That's right now why Clubhouse has been so popular. If you don't, open the app and find yourself in the room, you will miss whoever it is speaking. It just is what it is. You can't tune in at another time. So it may be that some elements of your content, they are live only, which would require people to be present. That was Clubhouse, which is obviously a new audio only app that everybody's raving about and is being used quite strategically by some event brands at the moment. So that is something that you can do. The other thing you can do, as I say, is super targeted content, bundle it up and resell it in its recorded state as well later on. So people buy the ticket for the live, but they can also opt into an additional ticket that allows them to get the recordings. And so if they don't turn up live, they can obviously look forward to the recordings. 9 times out of 10, if you are solving a problem, especially in business to business events, people will turn up. If they trust your brand and they know that your content is high quality and action-based, is telling them how to solve a problem, they will turn up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then just kind of to touch on that, just, you know, making recorded content available afterwards. We're seeing that so much right now. And it's also a great way to continue to generate revenue if, you know, if you are selling tickets, and can kind of be an unexpected little boost to revenues. You produce all this content and it's great content, and now it's out there and you can still keep selling tickets to your event for people to watch afterwards. So yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, Jessica, can we turn it over to some questions from the audience? What are we getting here?
So many questions, and so many really great questions. So thank you all for submitting them. We'll try to get to as many as we can. I would say, so it looks like that upvote functionality is gone. I don't know what happened to it. So apologies.
I was noticing that.
But the good thing is we've gotten a lot of really great questions about networking ideas, different virtual networking ideas that might help to incorporate people, attendees, so they're not feeling like the third wheel for the event, as someone said, to really make it so that they're feeling like part of the event versus just like an outsider looking in. So any sort of networking ideas. It sounds like a lot of people are really keen on the gift idea of bringing people in some way of that inclusivity, but what thoughts do you have on that, on networking?
Yeah, sure. I mean, something that I've seen very recently happening, ironically, on the Clubhouse app are walking groups. So individuals are getting together every morning, or yoga groups happening on the Clubhouse app, sometimes using an actual activity that is linked to wellness or that encourages, you know, exchange of experiences or stories, is a great way of getting people to connect, essentially. And so you can arrange those things whereby people have to interact with each other ultimately and network, but around a particular interest or activity. That has proven to be really, really popular, I've seen across a lot of the virtual events that I see, and hybrid events for that matter, that I see happening out there. The other thing that we see people using is challenges. So you have small groups or teams who have to solve something, crack something, and it requires them to interact with each other and get to know each other in the process of trying to win the prize, for example. I think the thing about networking and engagement, I will say this, is that it hasn't changed much between what we did in person. And I think for organizers, it's really probably going to be helpful to also remember the fact that if I wasn't a very good networker in person, if I walked into a conference room and didn't speak to people, for whatever reason, maybe I'm shy, not confident in communicating with strangers, my behavior might not necessarily change online. Okay, so we're still dealing with human interactions ultimately. And so you can engineer an event and the activities to encourage more exchanges, peer-to-peer exchanges between attendees. But ultimately, that's all you can do. Hopefully you are able to engage your attendees and they are confident enough to go through the attendee list or be in a room online and look down the participant list and think, I want to speak to Joe because he is the sales director for, you know, X company, and just click on there and book a call with him. So what it is about consistent call to actions that encourage this behavior, incentivizing and rewarding people as well, probably, to get in touch and interact with other people as well.
Awesome. To kind of go along with that too, we've had a couple of questions about what's a good way to bridge the gap between the online attendees and in-person attendees, because there's definitely some lapse of communication potential there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is another great opportunity. I mean, there are things, for example, you know, I'm just thinking, again, one particular event, we've been engaging people virtually for a period of time, and the physical in-person event will come up. So what we're doing is saving certain content for the in-person event specifically. And then those individuals and attendees who attend in person will experience that, but they'll be able to feedback essentially to each other. So that's what we've done with that community, where those who attend the virtual feedback and create almost new content for us that is shared with those who are only attending in person as well. So I think it's about the structure and the segmenting of your content in order to get those two groups to actually interact. And what you'll find if you're building community, you will always have people who sit in the middle. They will be attending your virtual and your in-person as well. And then for those who only want to attend the in-person, it's usually because they do want that human interaction, or there's something specific on the program that they can't get somewhere else, hence why they attend the in-person. So I think it's trial and error, a lot of these things. The world of hybrid is beautifully, uncertain. It is our oyster right now to engineer and construct events for our brands and communities that work for us.
Awesome, thank you. And then just to talk a little bit more, I guess from the technical side, what sort of softwares have you seen at hybrid events to make sure that that experience is as seamless as possible on both sides?
Absolutely. Well, the interesting thing is most companies now are trying to pivot into delivering and facilitating hybrid events, essentially. Okay, so what you want to be doing is looking at tools that allow for seamless interaction. So there's a couple of things. I'll take it back a step. You want to continue to choose technologies that help you to collect registrations in a simple, straightforward way. That helps you to filter which delegates are virtual only, maybe in-person only, or maybe both. So that is probably something important. You want to look for technologies that can enable both of those from a structural point of view. And secondly, you want to look for technologies that play nice, for example, with production, so that when you have your in-person element to your event, you are able to integrate the production with your event technology company. Okay, so some event technology companies will offer this in a kind of one-stop fashion, and others may be partnering with production companies in your venue, for example. And so you want to make sure that those two things play nice, I'd say, when it comes to the technology, so that you have a seamless transition and experience for your attendees, particularly to the point that Rachel made earlier regarding now being able to leverage content that is created both in the virtual and the physical space. The chances are you're going to want to capture the content in the in-person space, which is why it's really important that you have great production and that it works hand in hand with your event technology so that the content can be repurposed, edited, and reused.
Do we have time for one more question?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. So obviously, just a quick thank you so much. We were able to get the upvotes and everything on. So used to just be automatic. Anyway, cool change. So we have a few questions with regards to, oh my God, the questions keep moving around. Where did it go? Engaging in exhibitors and sponsors. So what suggestions do you have for engaging the attendees to make sure that they're visiting the exhibitor booths, and how are you helping to, or what encouragement to make sure that exhibitors feel like they're truly part of the hybrid environment when they're not necessarily on the in-person side of it?
Yeah, so this is a brilliant question, and your second question kind of answers your first. Like, every single partner to your event now has to work. That's the way I always put it. We all need to work now for our place in this event. What that means is that your sponsors should not merely be sponsors anymore in the traditional sense. They should be key ambassadors and influencers before, during, and after your event. Okay, so you need to pull sponsor content, employees from your sponsors, whoever's appropriate from the sponsor team into the main content before, during, and after your event. Your sponsor could be hosting a whole session. Or you can have sessions, for example, that are led by a stakeholder from your sponsor, company. It's really important now to co-create and partner with your sponsors in the appropriate elements of your event. That way, there is this kind of seamless integration of them so that your attendees don't feel like they're being sold to, And you don't necessarily have to keep saying, go and visit the booth, because when they're watching a keynote talk or they're watching a panel event, those key sponsors are on the stage anyway. They're interacting with them anyway. And find ways to integrate sponsor, what your sponsors want with what your attendees need in the content. You know, quite often when you go to an event and you see a dynamic speaker, or you go to a workshop or a roundtable, and the host, the moderator, or even the two people who are having the conversation, if they're giving high value content that matters to me, that solves my problem, I'm more likely anyway to look them up on LinkedIn or go to their booth. That's just the way it happens naturally. And so what you want to do is choose probably the most dynamic people from your sponsor, to leverage them, highlight what they're going to be talking about, what activities they're going to be involved in, that they're going to be sponsoring, always with in mind what your attendee cares about, not necessarily what your sponsor cares about. What does your attendee care about? And how can your sponsor meet that need? What you'll find is that engagement on their booth goes up anyway. When you send out those emails, even the kind of maybe the mandatory sponsor-led email, people are more likely to engage if you've made it very interactive, if you've made it relevant to them. So I hope that answers your question. I think it's about co-partnering, co-creating content for your attendees that really amplifies what the sponsor can offer, but in an integrated way that is enjoyable for your audience.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is, you know, also an opportunity if you're co-creating that with your sponsors, they're going to be loving the content that's coming from it too, and they're going to be sharing it way more, you know, and it kind of just like creates that sort of organic distribution.
Yeah, we put all of our sponsors, we put our media partners, and we put all of our speakers to work in this virtual and hybrid space. Everybody has to put that effort in to get people to come, and then to get people to engage and engineer the results that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So we do have a few more moments here, but I did want to kind of what we've talked about a little bit, asking, working with our audience to find out what you guys want to learn about more in regards to hybrid events. You know, what are you curious about? You know, what's still so unknown in the space. So Jessica, if you could launch the last poll we have there, we would love to hear from you what you would love to learn about more. We might have a few moments to touch on it, but not super long. Yeah, so I think a huge thing we saw with virtual events popping up was pricing models. That was very confusing for everyone to deal with. We all dealt with kind of staffing in teams. That's going to look different again in hybrid events. Sponsorship exposure, which we were talking about a little bit there. You know, programming, attendee engagement. Yeah, what all is, you know, what's missing and what could we really be focusing on more?
I'm going to give this a few more seconds while the votes are still coming in. But we do have a couple of others. So I wanted to go ahead and add that. In the chat, we have all of the above, which hard agree. How to compete with free events. Great question. Tips for nonprofits who don't have huge budgets or sponsors. You're only able to select one, but one question says elements. Oh, that's just the name of the poll itself. Sorry.
Oh.
Egon is also mad at me for typing that weird. But it's looking like technology and equipment and attendee engagement are the top two. And I know we did have a few questions about pricing models and staffing and teams, because it does definitely look different for hybrids. But yeah, technology and equipment and attendee engagement are numbers 1 and 2 respectively. And then Dan would like to know if we'd be able to send out a written reply to all questions. They're all really good. You're not wrong, Dan. They are. We'll work on that for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely work on that and try to include that in the email with the recording as well too. Yeah, we'll do the best we can to compile some responses there if we can. But yeah, so yeah, thank you everyone. I think what could be interesting, since this is kind of happening in the chat a little bit, if you have anything, I know technology and equipment was the top one, but I think we talked about that a bit in the strategy that people can use when evaluating technology. But Ashanti, do you have any thoughts on pricing models? You know, how do you compete with free events? What, you know, is there kind of some techniques you use there?
Really, I think you, again, number one, the way we've approached it is focus on quality and content and targeted audience, because those two things combined make your event far more valuable, quite frankly, whether it's free or paid. But we have done both, but we've had targeted content with targeted audiences. And I think focusing on that will give you a reason to charge anyway. What you may do is charge maybe slightly less the first time, or have a staggered tiered pricing system that allows people to opt into elements. It could be live only, live plus recorded, and you may be selling indeed something else even. Or you may do an early bird ticket, and then after a certain cutoff point, there is another price entirely. So when it comes to pricing, I don't think there are any rules. I think what is important is the quality of what you're offering and who you're offering it to. I wouldn't get too caught up in comparing yourself necessarily to other equivalent brands, because I think there are a number of factors right now that brands are weighing up when it comes to pricing. And some of them are deliberately using the hybrid, their first attempt at hybrid, and even their current virtual strategy as lost leads, because they're looking for other metrics and results, not necessarily the monetization. So I think you have to be careful when you look at other people and what they're charging, because you don't know what the strategy is in-house as to why they've chosen that charging structure. They may be aware that it is a lost lead, and that's why they're doing it, because there's other benefits to them. So I think it's more about thinking about your audience, your threshold financially, but focusing on quality and content and targeting that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, well, thank you so much. I did want to put up on the screen here a way that you all can get in touch with either our team here at SCED and also Ashanti's team at EventMind. So you can reach them if you want to jot down these emails, and we'll also, like I said, include this in a post email with the recording and some other great resources. But don't hesitate at all to reach out to us as you're going through planning hybrid events for the first time, and we all kind of go through another big shift this year. We're, you know, exploring new options too, and kind of learning as we go as well, and really excited to be, you know, finding those unique solutions for events, like Ashanti's really been talking about, you know, really focusing on what value you can offer your attendees, you know, partnering with your speakers and sponsors to deliver that, and really a customized experience. So don't hesitate to reach out. And is there any last few things you'd love to touch on, Ashanti, that you don't think you covered?
No, it's been really, really good, as usual, to talk all things hybrid and online events. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for tuning in. And we look forward to talking to you more.